engaging in blaming. If you are a black person and you are blaming other people for the problems that you experience, you are helping white people maintain the system of white supremacy.
And again, everyone come to your own conclusions. Think about the information, come to your own conclusions about how you feel on it. Just given my view, Pam has given her view. We could both be wrong. We could both be wrong. I will say, because you said, where is President Obama leading us? And I wanted to say, I think it would be more accurate if we're in a system of racism, white supremacy, racist woman and racist man are doing the leading, not President Obama or any other non-white person. I think that would be most accurate. And I was also thinking the confusion in terms of President Obama being there and perhaps that confusing other non-white people about, exactly what is taking place under the system of white supremacy. And I thought, even if it was George Bush or any other white person, if it was, let's say, John McCain had actually won, even if, that was the case, we had a white president and non-white people were upset and blaming that individual white president, I think it would just represent confusion. This is what happens when you get non-white people who are confused about the fact that we are in a total system of white supremacy, where you look to blame what is happening on one individual person, typically a non-white person, or one individual white person, as opposed to understanding there is an entire global network of white people who are doing things against non-white people 24/7. Doesn't matter who's in the so-called White House, they're going to be doing their thing regardless, 24/7. And if you don't understand that, everything else is just out the window. So I think, it would be really irrelevant. I think to me, it's it's the essence of fantasy. You got to have a boogeyman, you got to have a prince. Either you go the emotional route with the prince, and this is President Obama becomes a demagogue. He becomes a hero. You can't say anything bad against him, or you go the other route, really emotional, and he's Satan. The worst thing ever. And I think both of those, like I said in the beginning, I think both of those, to me, it suggests some confusion. Wait a minute, what about this whole gang of white people? That's the problem. Wait a minute, why are we getting so caught up on, any one individual, particularly any one non-white individual? Shouldn't we be focusing on the global white collective and how to deal with them? That just seems more logical to me. Something seems really, and particularly, not only when I hear black people chumming it up with a white person to talk bad about another black person, something about that just, is way incorrect. If we're in a system of white supremacy, that should never happen, where a black person or any other non-white person, I'm talking with a white person so that we can talk bad about how dumb and stupid this other non-white. That just seems, woo. I have made some errors if that is happening in my day. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, and I've been guilty of it.
Oh,
and you just made me squirm over here, and I was like, dang, because even when you're doing it, if you're halfway conscious, and awake, if you're halfway conscious, even in your mind, you're like, what am I doing? It's like I'm aware that I'm doing it, but it feels so good. It feels so right, like I'm following my programming. So I'm battling this programming all the time. I am still a crackhead, still a white supremacy crackhead. And I've done that, and when you were saying that, I remember the last time I did it. But it was with a non-black, non-white person. But I've done it with white people, had conversations about Obama, and it just feels so good, so that's the sickness in me. So I totally agree. I agree with you that Obama is not leading us anywhere. Everything you said, I agree with. So I think I'm still caught in the emotion. I think the emotion is winning out over the logic and the codification. So I'm just going to work on that. That's all I can say. Just got to work on it.
What do you think makes it feel so good to, is it is it white validation or is it
Yes.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yes, white validation. Hey, white person, I'm different. Hey, white person, I'm with you. Hey, white person, I don't like that N either. That's all it is. Because I'm not talking to them about a whole lot of other stuff. They're not my confidant. So why am I talking about Obama with them? To be fair to myself, however, I talk about white politicians like a dog, too. But I know that I am, I know that I am doing something wrong when I get into talking about a black person with a white person. I know. I feel it in my gut. I know something else is going on here. This is not just a simple, harmless conversation. This is real jacked up. But it feels good because it's like that hit a crack. You know you're messing up. But that anticipation, and when that crack hits, and please, nobody, I never use crack, so I'm not speaking from experience, but it's like that programming kicks in, and you're doing what you've been taught to do all your life, and that is please white people.
Context of White Supremacy. In fact, because you have so many programs, just because most of the time when you see a black person with a microphone in front of them, they're talking bad about another black person. Like if you can think of all the sitcoms, Sanford and Son, Good Times, Martin, The Game, most of the time, what you just heard, when you see a black person with a microphone in front of their face, they're talking bad about another non-white person, like a high percentage of the time. I don't know that. I think we should all work against that. Anytime if a microphone is put in front of you, make sure if you have something bad to say, it's about white people because they are the problem. Yeah, I want to make sure I'm on my job about this Tim Wise thing and just throwing that out there for comparison's sake. All the videos, you can go online. I remember there were black people during the election in 2008. I remember there were black people in Florida. They interrupted him during a speech and started yelling at, I guess it was Senator Obama at the time, yelling at him about Jenna Six and Sean Bell and what are you going to do for black people. And I remember I believe it was last year, they had a protest in D.C. It was all black people, and they were protesting President Obama. And I remembered I was so thankful. Mr. Fuller, he was on a radio program in 2008. It was just a couple weeks after the election, and someone asked him about President Obama, and they almost asked the question that you did in terms of, is this going to confuse non-white people about what's going on? And he gave a great response. I'll play Mr. Fuller real quick and get your thoughts, Pam.
Now, I have another question about, we now have a new non-white, a black president, Mr. Obama. What do you believe why Mr. Obama was able to become president, and what do you believe why it is that so many so-called white people or white people voted for Mr. Obama? What do you think the motivation behind that was? What do you think?
I think it's one or two or both. Now, one, there are a sizable number of white people who are tired of this whole business about squabbling about what color somebody is. Mostly a number of younger white people classified as white. Now, there's another category, and that is the refined racists who says it's good for business. Good for the business of what? Of racism. That you put a lot of black people up front, and what better way to put a black person up front is the attempt was made by that category of people, first of all, with Mr. Powell, who didn't rise to the occasion for reasons which he best knows, in my opinion, and then now Mr. Obama. that a lot of white people say they want him out front. By out front means he's not going to dictate. He's not going to just sit up and write checks, because he's not going to be allowed to do that based on logic. So why would white people who have malintentions want him to be up front? It's because in any organized, that's the white people who are racist, that is. Now, racism works on the principle of organized crime. One thing that you do in modern organized crime is that you have what they call buffers. You have people to take the rap for things that you are going to do behind the scenes. And I think this is the master plan for the position that Mr. Obama is going to be in. And I think that every black person, every non-white person, and every correct-thinking white person should be aware of that plan, that a lot of very ugly things are going to happen on his watch that he has absolutely nothing to do with, but he's going to be the person standing there with the smoking gun because somebody's going to put it in his hands. That's an old trick that everybody should be aware of by now, but a lot of people are not. And a lot of black people, you can look for it, and I'm trying to head it off, and everybody who is listening to this should be trying to head it off, saying, don't rise to that bait, because the bait is for everybody, particularly millions of black people throughout the world to get mad at Mr. Obama because they didn't get a check.
So what is it that you believe is going to happen, and what is it that black people and non-white people can do to protect themselves to the greatest extent they could?
We have to codify in such a way that all of the things that we do are designed to tailor to the individual to do the best that he or she can wherever he or she happens to be in the known universe on any given day, as if Mr. Obama was never elected president. A lot of this surrounding Mr. Obama is to lull the dark-skinned people of the world to sleep, thinking that this is hallelujah time, and that all they have to do is just lie down and go to sleep, and when they wake up, all they have to do is march themselves to the mailbox, and there will be a fat check there with Mr. Obama's signature on it. And when they go to that mailbox and they do not see that check there, and when things seem to be getting worse and worse for them, while they stand there waiting on a Messiah, they're going to get angry at Mr. Obama, which is exactly what a huge segment of the white supremacist culture have planned. That's exactly what they want to happen. While they enrich themselves behind the scenes